Hi, I'm Lewis Rankmore, and this is my evaluation for my final major project.
How did you arrive at your idea?
Well, I went into this project with an idea, um, and that idea didn't really pan out because it was too comprehensive, a bit too much for the level 2 course. So I had to quickly come up with a different story on the fly, which is when I often do my best thinking when I'm just like sat somewhere or like listening to music, which is why when my mum was dropping me off to college one day, I just thought of the idea. It seemed reasonable to do with like limited resources, and yeah, I ended up uh, making that.
Okay. How effective was your research in informing your ideas?
Well, I did most of my research based around movie monsters, as my film features a monster, but obviously, with the small budget that we had, I can actually show the monster, so I was looking at films with monsters that barely had any screen time to show how much they could make an impact in the final film despite barely being in it. And I also found this one short film called We're Not Safe Here, which is pretty much exactly like beat for beat kind of how my film was gonna go. Like same shots, same lighting, same like creature at the very end. Pretty much the same beat for beat. So I say the research influenced me quite heavily into my final project.
Okay. Um, what other areas did you research?
What other areas did I research? I believe it was. Oh, sorry, no, I tell a lie. I also did some research on sound in horror films and how sound is really what can make or break a horror film. So I looked at the best, in my opinion, the best creature sounds in fiction. One of them was from a movie called Annihilation, which had this bear monster that had like a mix of animal and human sounds. It was very disturbing and very twisted. I also looked at a Wendigo from the video game Until Dawn, which has this very like high pitched, unnatural scream, which I thought was quite good. I also put out a survey on what sounds people would not want to hear in the woods, and I got some feedback off that, which was great. I also uploaded a sample uh, for people to listen to of different animal sounds that I'd laid over each other to kind of create this one big animal sound, because I know that's what big productions do, is that they layer multiple different creature sounds over each other. So yeah, I did sound work or sound research.
Okay. How did you plan your product?
Well, I started with just getting the general layout of the story and what I wanted it to be. Then I did research on how I could make that story as effective as possible.
Okay.
And then I uh, did the shot list. I did the storyboard, and then we ended up filming it.
Okay. And what were the milestones that you identified in your work?
The milestones. This was my something I didn't mention in the last question. This is my first time writing a script. I'm used to writing stories, short stories, but I've never written a script before. And I believe writing the script was definitely a milestone that I overcome. I believe it was around 6 pages, over 1,000 words. So that is something that I think is my biggest takeaway from this project. Being able to do that, as I have filmed some stuff before, so the filming aspect I wouldn't really say was a milestone, although it did feel good when we finally completed it. But I'd say the biggest milestone was definitely writing my first script.
Okay.
Oh, and sorry to cut you off, and making an actual short film, because I'm only used to filming like scenes or
Okay.
something.
Okay. Did you? Oh, sorry. Did you deviate from your original plan?
Um, well, my original plan being the scrapped short film, I guess yes, we did. We did end up deviating from that, and there were some things in the final product that changed a bit from my storyboard and my shot list, because obviously time inconsistencies and us having to shoot on different days and the weather, the lighting. So it all didn't go exactly as I planned, like down to the storyboard, down to the shot list, but it never really does when you're filming
Okay.
something like this. So I'd say the overall plan from the original plan did deviate very much, but I always knew I wanted to do horror.
Okay.
Horror is my passion. I love watching horror show films on YouTube. I love Halloween. I love watching just horror movies on Halloween. I'm very much a horror guy. I do want to get into writing broader categories, but I think horror is what I'm best at. But I would love to make like a horror comedy or like just a full blown horror someday.
Okay. What elements of your final project was the most successful?
That's a good question. Oh, sorry, my phone went off. That is a very good question. I would say the horror aspect, but after rewatching my film, it's not really as scary as I wanted it to be, unfortunately. I feel like though, I feel like the atmosphere, I think we did really well, especially with the shots with the campfire, the sound. I feel like the fire crackling. I feel like we did well. I feel like the cinematography we kind of did well. There was a lot of experimental shots that I did in there. Well, I say a lot. There was like one, but it was like to do with like pans and stuff. I feel like the overall just tone, atmosphere. If you watch the film, you can see what I was going for.
Okay.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, what elements of your project would you change and why?
Good question. What elements would I change? I'd probably, if I could, make it more horror. If I had the budget and I knew the right people, I would definitely have included the monster more. I feel like if we had a bigger rating, because obviously this has to be like a 12 or 15, whatever. I feel like if it was like I could do whatever I wanted, I would definitely make it probably more violent. I feel like if we had more time, I probably would have done more. Probably would have done better things. I wouldn't necessarily change a lot, other than like, I wish we had filmed sooner, so that the lighting could be consistent and stuff like that.
Okay. And overall, how satisfied are you with your final project?
I'm pretty satisfied as far as a good first directorial debut. I'm counting this one as my first directorial debut because the other ones I directed were like scenes of something, right? So this is my first directorial debut of a story that I wrote myself. I feel like overall, as one big piece, I'm very proud of what I did. I'm very proud that it's published. I'm very proud that it is something with my name attached to it that is available for people to see. And obviously it has its flaws. It's going to. First film. The acting isn't great. But obviously we're college students, so you can't really expect much in the acting side, unless we obviously took performing arts or something, which I did, but we mainly did singing. So other than like the obvious like acting, lighting issues, blah blah blah, I feel like this is a very big first step in the right direction.
Okay. And what have you learned through completing your final project?
Sorry, my phone keeps going off. Hold on, let me just quickly put that on silent. I feel like, so can you ask the question again, sorry?
Yeah. What did you learn? Sorry. What have you learned through completing your final project?
What have I learned? I've definitely learned how like precise you need to be with certain things. Like you need to have everything down to the smallest detail planned out. Like whether like you've got to track stuff, you've got to make sure you know what shot you're doing at when. You got to make sure everything is prepared for the final day. So I'd say the biggest thing I've learned is to always be prepared when it comes to making a final film. But I also feel like I asked, obviously, the crew when we were done. I was like, "Oh, do you think I'm a good director?" Because obviously, my first time directing, and they all agreed. They all think that I did relatively well. I think I did relatively well as a director. I feel like my vision was clear and concise. And yeah, I just feel like I've taken a lot of things away from this. But I feel like my main one is make sure to like be prepared.
Okay. A final question. What would you do differently if you repeated this project again in the future?
What would I do differently? Good question. I would probably change it a bit. Maybe try and make it a bit more scary. Film it earlier. So that way I can get consistent lighting. Or I just film it indoors and not at night time. Because I feel like that was definitely our biggest struggle, was it being nighttime and it being outdoors, because the rain, the mud, it just wasn't the right environment to be filming in, which is why the lighting in my film is a bit all over the place. So I'd probably film it inside and probably come up with a different concept that would work in the indoor environment.
Okay, thank you.